And here we are. We are live. I think. Where'd my what happened to me?
I don't know.
I lost my. Oh, there you go. No, there I go. No, my software disappeared underneath the web
Oh,
browser, and I couldn't find it.
on the
Um,
night version of the Joe and Joe show.
yeah, you do it this time. You say hello.
Oh, hello. How are you? My name is Joe. His name is Joe. And we're here for the second time today in the aftermath of the severe winds and heavy rains and occasional lightning and thunder to bring you up to date on all of the latest meteorological news and tidbits here on the Joe and Joe Weather Show nighttime version. We were on earlier today at 12:30, right after lunchtime. I usually have my lunch around noon. And here we are now right after dinner hour. And what else is new, Joe?
Is there any audience left? Is everyone still there? That that intro went longer than the storm itself, but no matter. Um, uh, I gust to 82 miles an hour at Island Beach State Park in New Jersey. We had gusts here in the 60s for several hours. Saw a few folks, tree issues, trees down in some places. I think this pretty well played to form. The severe weather threat played to form in Pennsylvania and in parts of New Jersey. There were a few strong cells that swept on through. I got a ton of rain here. I don't know what my rain total is, but it's got to be over 2 inches before now that it's all over with. And I think I see some hints of blue sky, so I may have finally cleared out.
We have sunshine. We've had sunshine up here for the last hour or so, which kind of surprised me. I knew we were going to go into a clearing mode, at least a partial clearing mode, but not till later tonight, at least in my opinion. But we've got some clearing now. But it looks like tomorrow will be a lot nicer out there as opposed to what we had out there today.
And this system really did produce a lot of severe weather. This is David Schwartz, who was on the board, put this up for everybody. Tornadopaths.org. Okay, so you have tornadohq.com and tornadopaths.org. Very good sites here showing the tornadoes that occurred yesterday. And I didn't get a chance to actually play around with. Oh, there you go. Tornadoes for the last 48 hours. It just freshened up. So it looks like if you click on it, it'll just kind of give you the uh, close up geography of it. And as I said, I didn't get a chance to kind of go through the site to see exactly what's on there. But it looks like we had at least 60 tornadoes in the last 36 to 48 hours. There were a few tornado warnings up in the Northeast, but in parts of Northern Virginia and into Maryland, we saw some when we were on earlier today. There were a couple of tornado warnings up, but no confirmed tornadoes, at least so far. And I'm just going to put up SPC's website here and to see if they have their tornado count. So at least for today, looks like they have for today 16, 169 wind reports of damaging winds and 3 reports of hail. So you put that together with yesterday, and this I think really kind of played out the way it was supposed to.
I think so. I think so. I did see some suggestions of winds of up to like 80 miles an hour in some forecasts, but sometimes you have to know when to blend in a little bit of the man with the machine. And honestly, I did not think that we would see winds quite that strong, although I did think here in the lower Hudson Valley, 40 to 60 was certainly within range, especially right along the Sound Shore of
Well,
West.
well, as I said yesterday about this, I'm not really interested in picking the top number. I think if you say, if you're going to put a forecast up of winds of 50 to 60 miles an hour and they wind up being 60 to 70, I think that that's close enough.
Yes.
There's nobody's going to ever predict. Supposing you had some renegade strong thunderstorm cell that developed that produced just to pull out a 90 mile an hour wind gust someplace, you're going to be able to forecast that
Oh, of
the
course.
data board? No, no, no. Of
Of
course
course.
not. I'm just bringing up some storm reports. They're up on the Upton site. Just kind of going through them real quick. Looks like just under 3 inches of rain in Greenwich, Connecticut. Generally, from the rainfall reports here, and some of them are not final reports, so I don't want to do like an apples to oranges comparison. Even the high amount in Greenwich was as of 1:45, so I can tell you that it rained for at least a few more hours after that. In New Jersey, looking like the rainfall amounts were generally in the inch and a half to just under 2 inches. There were a few spots that got a little bit over two. I'm looking at Long Island here, inch to an inch and a half. And again, some of these are from earlier in the afternoon, so they're not final amounts. So I would say probably inch and a half to 2 inches is fair. Same for the Suffolk County numbers are at an inch to an inch and a half before 2 o'clock, and I'm telling you, it poured between 2 and 5. So those numbers are going up. And as far as wind gusts are concerned, just picking up some numbers here, Joe. Bridgeport Airport 61. I know MacArthur on an ob had a 61 mile an hour wind gust. Robert Moses, 26 miles. So this is at the buoy, 26 miles south of Robert Moses, 76 mile an hour wind gust there. I don't know if somebody's hanging out at the buoy. I don't know. Um, Ori, Orient 68, 63 at Stony Brook, two wind gusts at MacArthur at 61, Brookhaven at 60. So those numbers. They're all in line. I mean, they're all pretty much in line with what happened around here.
I'm impressed by Orange County. Rock Tavern. I've never heard of Rock Tavern. 67 mile per hour. That's pretty darn good for a place that's probably well inland. Um, that just about matches the Orient Point and the Stony Brook readings out on Long Island.
Yeah, I saw some. There wasn't. You talked about this on the earlier live stream. It kind of came in waves, and you had these big bursts of wind. Then it would just kind of drop off, and then it would burst again. And I noticed that watching the wind gusts this afternoon on the observation map on the map plots that you had some places were showing gusts at like 15, 20. Printing a number of 15, 20, or 25, and then you would blink your eye and look at it maybe 10 minutes later, and suddenly you'd see a 50 where you just saw a 20. So there was a lot of variability in terms of how the winds behaved with this. Things are improving. We are seeing winds subsiding very rapidly. Wind advisories and high wind warnings in many areas have actually come down. There's still some left over that are up in parts in Pennsylvania and in upstate New York, and also in Maine and coastal Massachusetts. Those are going to come down, sure enough, during tonight. And the winds are just going to flatten out. All the wind advisories that were up across the southern states, those are gone. We have a large area. Remember, the growing season has started, so it's cold in the middle Mississippi Valley and down in the southern plains. And they've got freeze warnings up and also some winter weather advisories in North Texas and back into New Mexico. Looks like even two counties with winter storm warnings and a few winter weather advisories up in northwestern Montana. But overall, Joe, the weather pattern is calming down as we go through the rest of the week. We don't have another major storm on the heels of this one.
Now, the system that we're watching for tomorrow night and Wednesday morning is more or less a kind of a little ripple along the along the old weather front offshore, and it seems that while the column, the atmosphere over the tri-state area certainly would be cold enough for snow at the higher and mid levels. Once you get down close to the ground, the boundary temperatures seem to belie the fact that it's going to be above freezing.
Right.
So it's more likely that if we see precipitation late tomorrow night or early Wednesday, it's more likely going to be in the form of rain or shower activity, but maybe some of the flakes from the colder air aloft will make it down to the ground. It's not obviously going to stick or anything, but
Yeah.
if you happen to see some wet snow mixing in, especially over the colder northern and western areas, well, don't be too surprised.
Even so, The low on the latest model runs looks fairly flat. Both the NAB and the GFS barely have precip up to about New York City, so what little there is light. So it's not as if this is going to become anything other than what it is. And there's also looks like there's another weak weather front that comes through here Wednesday night, early Thursday morning. Uh, just brings in some drier air, and I'm running the NAM, the GFS right now, and then another weather system approaching for later Friday into Saturday morning with a low going to our south, and the GFS kind of wants to hint that the northern fringe of that might be some wet snow in northern PA and in southern New York. But I want to wait to see what the how the models evolve over the next 48 hours or so. But my main concern is looking at the possibility that there's another major storm on the horizon, and it doesn't look like there is. It looks like these weather systems are going to be on the weak side going forward for the next 7 to 10 days, which is a plus.
Right, and yeah, it'll be interesting to see whether or not we can get just enough cold air in with that Friday system to maybe see a little bit more in terms of wet flakes or wet snow. But it's kind of crazy that we went through the whole winter season, a relatively balmy winter season for our area, and here we are now. It's mid-April, and we're even remotely talking about the possibility of a little bit of wet snow.
Yeah.
Uh,
Oh, we have a beautiful upper air. Beautiful upper air. If this were, we've been saying, if this were even 2 or 3 weeks ago, your chances would have been higher. You have a setup in the upper air where our wind is our the upper air winds are coming straight from Joe. Are you there, Joe? Mr. Rayo, are you with us?
I'm
Yes. So at least for the next 10 days, we're going to see temperatures continuing to average, to continue below average for this time of year. And remember, folks, it should be in the 60s just about every day now for highs. And we're not going to be seeing that over the next uh, several days or more.
Yeah, the normal temperature in the lower Hudson Valley, at least the White Plains, is 62. So generally, you think like 50, 59 to 64, 60 to 65. And temperatures, Joe, well, take for example, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Friday, the temperatures may struggle just to make it above 50. So
Mm-hmm.
we're in a chilly or cold pattern for the next few days coming up.
Yep, and just I'm going to put up the 2 meter temperature anomaly just to show everybody the extent of the below average temperatures. That's not to say, by the way, in a pattern like this that it couldn't get warm on the odd day here and there. It's just that that's all it will be is the odd day here and there ahead of whatever cold fronts are arriving. I mean, take a look at early next week where we see a little bit of an uptick in temperatures going into early next week before another system and cold front go by. Virtually the whole nation on Tuesday, from coast to coast, with some minor exceptions, the southeast and the northwest, below average temperatures, and going through all of next week, below average temperatures for the most part. Dominate the scene, and then there's more cooler air coming down out of Canada as we take it out further into the long term. So, uh, at least for now, if you're looking for warm weather to come in and give, that's not happening. Again, other than the odd day here and there. Just let me bring up Joe really fast because just want to point out, looking at the lightningmaps.org. Again, reinforcing the notion that we're all done. The lightning strikes that are being recorded are all out in the ocean now, and even though there's still some precip up in New England, some rain there, we don't see any lightning strikes going on. And of course, looking through the Mid-Atlantic and the Southeast and down through the Gulf states, these areas have gotten pounded in the last 24 to 48 hours. That's all done. We did the watches and warnings. Just a quick look at the satellite loop, and of course, you're seeing the dry slot that has moved up the eastern seaboard. The cold front is now offshore. We're seeing the whole system in Canada just kind of lifting away to the northeast. And then if you look back, folks, in the plains, the southern plains back to the southwest, those clouds streaming eastward, that's the weather system for Tuesday night and Wednesday. It's very flat looking. And we don't have what we had with this system where we had this really well-defined shortwave that was off the California coast that got kicked eastward. and developed into this major storm. We have something far less. Severe weather risks for tomorrow. A small area of risk in southernmost Georgia and over the northern part of Florida on Thursday. What is this? I'm sorry, Wednesday into Thursday. A marginal risk remaining in the northern part of Florida. Otherwise, the rest of the nation is quiet. And days 4 through 8, predictability and is too low for those that 4 to 8 day time frame. Again, emphasizing the idea that we don't have anything major to deal with. So I'm just coming back to the full screen of both of us, and let me get rid of that and check out what's going on the chat board. Seems like everybody's kind of tired. We have a smaller crowd than we had earlier today, which is understandable.
We had about 150 people this at 12:30 today.
Yeah, well, 100 of them didn't come back.
I think we're just all frittered out now.
I think so. There's not really much more we can say with everything that's going on. Why don't we just? I guess why don't we just wrap it up? We have been very busy. We worked very hard. We'll wrap it up with our with a. We'll go do a little Briller Jeopardy. How does that sound?
Why not?
All right, hang on one second, and I'm gonna. I actually preloaded it, so this way there wasn't going to be any big problems with me finding it. Of course, now it has decided to reload itself, so I have to wait for the page to come down, which it is doing slowly but surely.
I saw a Dick Van Dyke episode on MeTV at 11:30 last night, and they were doing old-time radio comedians, and the guy who was featured in that episode reminded me of a character on the old Alvin show. So I'll ask you the question. This is not a Briller Jeopardy question, but just something because this guy reminded me of that character. What was the name of the character who was the inventor, and he had a little short guy who followed him around?
Leonardo.
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 And who was the name of the guy, the scientist?
Oh God.
He had a very alliterative name.
He had a very what?
Alliterative name.
Oh my God. I could see him right in front of me. I got the Leonardo part.
Right, you got the Leonardo. Leonardo, what do you?
Leonardo, yes.
And he was always like.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
I think
I'll give you the initials.
Go ahead.
CC.
CC.
Right.
I honestly I don't know. I have no idea. I can't remember. I can visually see him, and I'm not technically savvy enough to.
We're going to have a party later on. That's paw for paw and arty for arty party.
Well, he made. There was an actor. And I can't remember his name. He was in The Sound of Music. He was the guy who who booked the music events for the Van Trapps.
We're on, Joe.
Yeah.
Hang on for a second. My wife says we're not on.
Hold on.
I lost you upstairs.
Well, I'm right here.
No.
As you were asking the question, it just cut.
It just like cut out. Is anybody out there seeing us?
The chat board is they're still talking, and no one has said that they aren't. So
oh, you are on.
Oh no, we're on.
Barry says we're on. And Scott.
Okay, Mrs. Rayo may have to go rebuild the entire internet. So
yes.
So
the name of the person, Joe, is Clyde Crashcop.
Oh, see, I wouldn't have remembered that.
Oh, well.
Is that what his name was? Clyde Crashcop?
Clyde Crashcop.
Oh, all
and
right.
The actor that was on Dick Van Dyke last night reminded me so much of Clyde.
Well, I think if it's the actor I'm thinking of, it's the same actor who played it was in The Sound of Music, and he played he was the guy who booked the musical appearances for the family. It's that actor's voice that because he played some parts He was in one of the original Mr. Belvedere movies
Uh-huh.
with Clifton Webb,
Right.
and that mode of speaking is how that character spoke.
Right.
So whenever that's who that reminds me of. I forgot the actor's name,
Okay. Well,
but he was a
well,
character actor. Anyway, so getting back to
Mike.
the late Jeopardy de Brillar is what was the highest wind speed ever recorded in a tornado?
Oh God. Ever recorded
Ever recorded,
without the instrumentation being destroyed or whatever.
I guess.
I'll say 255 miles an hour.
302.
302.
Yeah. Okay, so where was this 302-mile-an-hour tornado?
Mount Washington. How do I
No,
know?
no. I mean, it's it,
I know Mount Washington was 231 mile per hour, but that wasn't a tornado.
it's actually not fairly recently, May 3rd, 1999. So that was probably part of a really big outbreak. But this was in Bridge Creek, uh, Moore area, Oklahoma City area, or somewhere over there.
Wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
303 hours, 303 miles an hour. Not 303 hours, 303. I don't know why I said that. 303 miles per hour. So,
Okay.
so that pretty much, yeah. So that sums it up for tonight. Are we all happy?
Ta-da. Ah,
Good. All right. So,
get this now. If we cut it short right now, I'll actually be able to run upstairs and watch Final Jeopardy.
all right, go. Everybody have a great night. Hope you came out okay out of the storm, and we will see you tomorrow. Good night,
Yep.
everybody.
Good night.